Hello, 5th grade. I didn't have to have a meeting this morning, so I get to do lesson 118 instead of meet with Mrs. Messer. So that'll be productive. Lesson 118 is found on page 773. We have two new concepts or two objectives today. We will divide a decimal number until the remainder is 0, and we will mentally divide decimal numbers by 10, 100, and 1,000. Not sure why this pen is here. Okay, so the new concept on page 773, it says, we usually do not write remainders with decimal division problems. The procedure we will follow for now is to continue dividing until the remainder is 0. In order to continue the division, we may need to attach extra zeros to the decimal number that is being divided. Remember that attaching extra zeros to the back of a decimal number does not change the value of the number. Okay, so one thing I'll briefly write down is that 10 and 3/10 is equal to 10 and 30/100. This 0 doesn't affect the value of the number. 30/100 is equal to 3/10. So when we're dividing decimal numbers, let's see if I can think of a good one. Let's try divided by 4. See what happens. Okay, so this decimal number here, 1 doesn't go in, or 4 doesn't go into 1, but 4 goes into 10 twice. I'm going to bring my decimal point up right away, bring my 3 down. 4 goes into 23 5 times. Okay, now what we're learning to do today is instead of writing this number as a remainder, we're going to add a decimal point, or add a place value. So now we have 10 and 30/100, and we're dividing 4 by 30. Okay, this will not affect the value. A remainder of 3/4 is going to be equal to this amount that we end up with here. 4 goes into 37 times. Let's just delete that. Okay, 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract 30 minus 28 is 2. Okay, it looks like I have to add another 0 here, which you can do. 300 thousandths is equal to 3/10, which is equal to 30/100. I'm going to bring my 0 down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. When you get an answer with a remainder of 0, you are finished dividing that problem. Okay, so let's look at some of the examples. It says divide 0 and 6/10 by 5. I'm going to bring my decimal point up. 5 goes into 0 0 times. 5 goes into 6 once. 1 times 5 is 5. I have a remainder of 1. I'm not going to write 1/5. For these decimal problems, I'm going to add a 0. Okay, and when I add that 0, I bring it down. 5 goes into 10 twice. 2 times 5 is 10. There's no remainder. So my answer for example number 1 is 0 and 12/100. Example 1. Okay, let's look at example 2. We have 0 and 3/10 divided by 4. Decimal point, 4 goes into 0 0 times. 4 goes into 3 0 times. I'm going to add my 0. 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract remainder of 2. Add another 0. Bring it down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract no remainder. My answer for example number 2 is 0 and 75 thousandths. 0 and 75 thousandths. Looks like they give us one more. It is 3 4/10 divided by 10. Okay, I'm going to bring my decimal up right away. 10 goes into 3 0 times. 10 goes into 34 3 times. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 1 is 3. Subtract. Add a 0. Bring it down. 10 goes into 40. Oh boy. I know Jacob's going to say something tomorrow. Don't make fun of me too much. 40 goes into 10 goes into 40. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 1 is 4. Subtract. When you get no remainder, you are finished with your dividing with decimal problem. Example number 3 is 34 hundredths. 0 and 34 hundredths. Example 3. Okay, we've got another new concept we're going to add today. When we divide by 10, we find that the answer has the same digits, but the digits have shifted one place to the right. And they show 340 divided by 10. There we go. Okay, so 340 divided by 10. The 10 doesn't go into 3. 10 goes into 34 3 times. 10 goes into 40 4 times. Okay? If you take, when you're dividing by 10, you basically take the decimal. It's assumed to be here, and you move it one place to the left. When you multiply by 10, you take the decimal, move it to the right. It's just the opposite when you divide by tens, hundredths, and thousandths. Okay, so again, I divided 340 by 10. I took my decimal on 340. I moved it one decimal point to the right. My answer is 34 0/10. This portion of the quotient is unnecessary because we have a whole number with no fraction. So we can get rid of that. So my answer is 34. Okay, another one they show, actually I think it's this one. They have 3 4/10, or 3 40 hundredths, divided by 10. We took our decimal point, moved it one digit to the left, because we're dividing by 10. You take the decimal point, move it one digit to the left, and you get 34 hundredths. So one of the objectives for today was to mentally divide numbers by 10, 100, and 1000. Well, that's what we're doing right here. Example number 4 says mentally divide 3 5/10 by 100. Okay, so we have the number 3 5/10. Mentally move that decimal point to the left 1, 2 spaces. Fill in any place values with zeros that need to be filled in with, and you end up with 0 and 35 thousandths. Okay, the 0 represents the tenths place, the 3 is in the hundredths place, the 5 is in the thousandths, so this is 0 and 35 thousandths. Okay, they say mentally divide it, but even in the book they're showing us how to take that decimal point. Because there are 2 zeros, because it's 100, we're mentally moving it 2 places to the left. I guess it's not entirely mentally if you are physically doing it, but feel free to draw it out on your paper, move that decimal place 2 place values to the left when you're dividing by 100, 1 place to the left when you're dividing by 10, and 3 places when you're dividing by 1000. Okay, I'm going to do one more of those problems. This you can write down for example 4. Example 5, I'll just do a practice problem. Let's go with O. We have 32 4/10, and we're dividing it by 1000. Okay? Now again, they say do it mentally, but feel free to write 32 4/10 down on your paper And now you just count zeros. Each zero represents a place value. So I'm going to take my decimal point, move it 1, 2, 3 place values to the left. I'll put my new decimal point in here, and then of course fill in the tens place with a 0. Now this decimal point needs to go, so I'll get rid of it. So my new answer is 324 10,000ths. And if I wanted to put a 0 here, I could definitely feel free to do that. Okay, so this is example 5. If you have any questions, again, feel free to write them down on your YouTube sheets. I hope you have a great night. I will see you tomorrow.